Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to a Lunchtime IG Live. Let's have a little lunch together, but discuss all things real estate together. Today, we got a little bit of testosterone on here today. Continuing on with my series on the realtor perspective, I am actually going to be welcoming one of my amazing one of my amazing colleagues. His name is Reshad House, and he is young. He is girls, and I think he's single. So, ladies, hit him up in his DMs. Um, and there he is.
What's up, John?
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I was just being your hype woman.
Yeah,
I was
look, like always, and I appreciate you.
I was like, you bringing the fun vibes today, you bringing the youth today. And then I said, I think he's single as well. So,
Hmm.
hit you up in your DMs, see what's going on. And ladies, he loves a good line dance.
Well, I like to dance. I don't know about the line dance, but I haven't quite gotten them line dancing down.
Well, in the rotor out, ladies, he is a fun time. He's an amazing person and even better realtor. So let's jump right into it. Tell the people who you are.
My name is Reshad House. I am a realtor. My company is the House Realty Group. Co banker, they hold my license. I have been licensed going on 9 years. February will be 9 years, and
Wow.
I'll yeah, and I'm realtor in front of John's.
Time flies. I can't believe it's been 9 years since you've been licensed.
9 years. Look, long time. Don't feel like it though.
I absolutely love it. In those 9 years, so what was that? That was 20, if my math corrects, that's 29. No, that's 2016.
17. I got licensed 2017.
Love it. So, real estate has changed. The industry has changed for sure since 2017. So, can you kind of describe like what is the market? What's the current real estate market today in Atlanta?
I feel like depending on where you're looking to buy it, that's going to determine is that how the market is per se.
Yeah.
But overall, I could just say depending upon what avenue you're coming from, it can be a little bit challenging in terms of what you're looking for. I've had some buyers who, they'll say, hey, I'm looking for this or whatever, but then come to reality, they have to compromise or make a lot of adjustments in terms of what they're looking for inside of their house.
Hmm.
And sometimes it takes them a long time to really come to that realization, even though us as your realtor, we're going to keep it honest with you, keep it real, to say, hey, look, you're going to have to, compromise on something.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't hear it, but then at the same time, after looking for so long, they be like, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna have to bend on this in order to find what I'm looking for. So that can be a challenge for them. And then also, depending upon what they're looking for, I try to take people the route of new construction, ultimately because I feel like it's cheaper for you right now and you get the best deal.
Hmm.
But then if you're going to research, depending upon that sales motivation, going back and forth with them in terms of, you having to put down more money, are they going to make repairs and all those things, which nobody wants to buy a house, especially at the price that they're buying right now. Nobody wants to buy a house they have to actually put money into. So make sure that we're representing our buyer and find them exactly what they're looking for, and it's not too much of a hassle for them. But then even looking from like the seller standpoint, make sure that they're listening to you and make sure the house is actually ready for the buyer and then pricing it correctly. Of course, sellers, they want top dollar. Say everybody thinks the house is perfect. But at the same time, yeah, you might set the price, but the buyer's going to determine what they're going to pay for it.
Do you
So
right now we're seeing a lot of like family and friends putting in their input as far as like the house that buyers should buy or how they should buy or how they should negotiate? Do you feel like you're getting more or less family and friend involvement?
I think right now, because they're spending a lot more money, everybody has an input or has a say on what they should be doing.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I do have to remind my client is, they didn't buy a house in this market, and then you didn't buy a house in the market they bought their house in.
Right.
So if they bought their house during the pandemic, you're definitely not going to get as good of a deal, as was back then. And then right now you're having to pay a lot more money, based on just, interest rates in order to get your house. So
Yeah.
definitely, family, it definitely has been putting their input into it. And then their friends are, oh, my friend, when they bought their house, they only paid this much, or they didn't have to do this, or they have to do that. Hey, well, they listened to their realtor back then, so they bought a house. And you just now.
Gotta listen to yours so you can buy a house now. So
Correct.
Very much that. So like what kind of advice are you giving your buyers and your sellers in this market? Like kind of what are you telling them to help them navigate what this market looks like?
Well, I've been focused mostly on working with sellers this year.
Okay.
But ultimately, I've been working with them on making sure the house is in moving condition and that they're pricing it correctly, so that way they're not chasing the market down looking for that buyer.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, everybody wants their house to be, I want the most amount of money. I'm not willing to do this. I'm not willing to do that. But then once you start saying what you're willing to not do, you're taking away the amount of buyers, and then you're adding more days on market. Ultimately, for you to, in order to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Um, and then just for buyers in general, I tell them, especially right now, because the way that property taxes are going, don't buy at the top end of your budget. Definitely be very conscious about, the price that you buy in, because yes, they may qualify you for that 400,000, but the taxes may be this much this year, but next year it could go up, and then it might put you over what you actually wanted to spend monthly. So I always make sure that they fully understand that point, not buying, so that way it puts them beyond their means.
Understandable. I love that advice. And, I tend to tell buyers, especially my younger buyers, like, hey, this doesn't have to be your forever home. It
Right.
eventually could be your first investment property. So don't look at it as it's your forever home. It could be your jumping off point. It's your starting point. We're not looking for that 5 bedroom, not necessarily anyway, depending upon where you are when you buy your first home. But we're
Mhm.
not necessarily coming out of the gate looking for a 5 bedroom, 3 bathroom house on a full finished basement on an acre lot. You know,
Mhm.
for $250. Like, you
But
like,
we got a lot of those buyers looking for that.
yes, we do. So how do you control that? Like, how do you control buyers and sellers' expectations in this market? Because it's kind of all over the place. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I definitely try to have set the expectation before we even go out and look. Sometimes they come already having the understanding of what they're looking for, because some of them I've been talking to for a long time when buyers do come along. So
Mhm.
we've had conversations ultimately over time before we actually get in the car and actually start going to look. But ultimately just setting the expectation for it on the front side, and then instead of fucking around and finding out, excuse my language, we're not wasting we're not wasting a lot of time. So I always set an expectation up front, and then sellers having to kind of put them into a buyer's shoes sometimes too, when they're putting the house on the market for sale. Like, they're gonna ask you to do X, Y, and Z. So let's already go ahead with a plan and say, hey, look, we know this got to be done. Either do it now or already budget to make these things happen, or be willing to give up closing costs in order to make the deal work.
Yeah. So it sounds like over the past couple years, your job, your career, your business has evolved from just being strictly an agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're an economist. Now you are a urban planner. Now
Mm-hmm.
you are an investment strategist. So can you tell us, like, how has your job and how has your consultations and your career, how has it changed over these last years?
It really hasn't changed too much, honestly. But I think just because I'm a lot more knowledgeable about the real estate market and how things go, I can take away a lot of the questions or concerns that they have on the front side, and kind of ease the anxiety about things,
Hmm.
and let them be able to have a better understanding about what they're about to get into,
Hmm.
versus saying, "Hey, I'm an agent. I can help you buy a house," because a lot of agents out there, and that's all that they can do.
Yeah.
So just being able to just really explain different things and be able to better explain things in more detail, so that way they fully understand.
When you came into the market, I'm sorry, when you became an agent, like, what do you think is the biggest misconception that you had about being a real estate agent?
That all we do is open doors and show houses. I mean, because I ain't even gonna lie, like, I did think getting into real estate, that was the bulk of what we did. I didn't realize that we were your coach. I didn't realize that we were your daycare. When we're out looking at a house, because I'm having to chase your kid around, so that way you can have that moment to be away, not be distracted. Or be your therapist when your spouse is getting on your nerves and you want to talk to me about what's going on in the transaction.
Or the spouses are not on the same page of what they're looking for in a house. Oh, that's basic.
And of course, then they're both pulling you to different sides, and telling you what they want, but at the same time, it's kind of you want to give both of them like good advice, but at the same time, you don't want to talk over them, kind of say, oh, well, no, you do it this way, because then they're gonna talk about it at some point. But ultimately, getting them on the same page about the house, and giving them, try to compare, contrast, and kind of bring them together and say, well, look, even though this one don't have this one, but it makes up over here, and
Yeah.
then vice versa.
I mean, and you definitely can't beat the pillow talk that they're gonna have when y'all are not together.
Mm-hmm.
So weird when you're in the group chat and the wife is sending you one thing and then the husband is sending you another thing. And you like, this is not the same house. Are y'all want to live together? Because these are not the same houses. They're
Because
not
I,
areas. They're not the same style. They don't have the same feel. Like nothing is the same. But y'all want to buy a house.
mm.
Maybe they want to buy two. Who
but
knows?
but it's even funny when they actually are like arguing in the house. Like it's funny sometimes because it's a friendly argument, meaning y'all can kind of now have something to joke about, like why y'all out there. But that makes the experience, fun because it's kind of even though I know this is what she wants, but like let's go look at this house. Just look, give him a shot. You might like it.
Right.
Even though I know she's not gonna like it, but why not? Come on, let's go take a look at it. Let him have an opinion on something.
Agree. 100%. That we do. 100%. We do. Men do too. But that's
Mm-hmm.
another story for a whole nother. So tell me a little bit about, we talked about your misconceptions about being in the market when you first joined. What do you think some of the misconceptions that buyers and sellers and just the public have about not only the market, but being an agent as well?
I have two big ones that I hear all the time from sellers. Oh, now I don't have to pay the buyer's agent compensation.
Oh, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so of course, once that whole thing came out, everybody was like, "Oh, but we ain't gotta pay this no more. We ain't gotta pay that no more." Hey, in Georgia, you never really had to pay it. However, it was always inside of the contract that said, "This is what you're paying me, and then this is what I'm gonna split with them." Or you can say yay or nay if you're gonna how we're gonna have it split. It's always
Right,
been inside of the contract. It is a matter of how your agent actually explained it to you.
right,
But ultimately, back then it was written inside of the contract, but there was never a law about it. But now it just has to be better explained or written out inside of the contract so everybody can see it, so that there's no question about how the conversation is going to work. And
right.
firstly, I would say, well, I don't want to pay them there. They got their own agent. I said, okay, well, don't pay them. But guess what? You're not going to have a
What?
buyer in your house because they can't afford to pay their down payment. They can't afford to fix everything because you want to sell your house as is. And they may not have the money to pay the closing costs.
Right.
But you still going to pay that agent too?
Tell me about that conversation that you have with your sellers, because I know that I have those conversations, and I'm a high D. You come from the Keller Williams era, so you understand what I mean when I say I'm a high D, I, S, and a C. I'm D. That's kind of where I am. So
Mm-hmm.
very much get right to the point, give me the meat and the bones of it. Tell me what you need me to do. Let's come up with a solution.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking to these sellers, I know when I talk to them, I kind of give them examples of, well, we got a $400,000 house. They got this for the down payment. They got this for their closing costs, and this is what they have to pay their agent. To pay their agent is $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have that $12,000 to pay their agent and their closing costs and their down payment, they're simply not going to come look at your house because they simply just don't have the money to pay their agent and you. I mean, and buy your house at the price that you guys negotiate and pay the like they don't have it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're willing to go on the market and basically cut your audience down by a third, we'll go do just that. So kind of tell me about the conversations that you're having with those sellers and those buyers for that matter.
I mean, ultimately, I explained it the exact same way that you explained it to them. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this is how much they're going to be looking at for their down payment, and just break those numbers down to them.
Yeah.
But before we even have to get to that conversation, I've already done the numbers on it, and I have this is how much money that you're going to walk away with. I already have it written in to say this is what you're paying for the seller and the buyer's agent compensation. But ultimately, they look at the bottom line number, and once they see that number and they like it, they're like, okay, cool. Most time they don't ask about it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when I go over the contract, that's where I go in and I explain, okay, well, this is how it's written out. This, and I explain to them, this is why you pay us, but this is why we do need to offer the agent compensation to the buyer's agent, because if they do have to pay all those things, they're probably not going to buy your house. They're going to go find another house that pays the agent compensation.
Hmm.
But then I also tell them, you don't have to pay them the full 3%. You can offer them, 2.5, 2.75. You can offer them whatever you want to, but at the same time, it still does take away, what the buyer may be able to afford.
Yeah.
But every agent is different in terms of how they represent that buyer. Some people may take the cut in order to help their buyer out. Some may go back and they may charge their buyer. You just never know. But ultimately, at the same time, we have to offer them something. But if you want to, I'm a buyer's agent as well. I'm going to ask for 3%. So and they'll and end up saying, you know what, you work for it, you're right, I give you your 3%.
Because we got to eat.
I mean, we got to drop people. You know, we wear multiple hats. We're more than just opening doors and just filling out a piece of paper and have you sign off on it. We do a lot of different things. So once we really get them to understand everything that's going on inside of the transaction, to make sure that you as a seller have a qualified buyer coming to buy your property and they're getting them from contract to close, you want to make sure they're paid too.
I mean, not even just that. Like, I don't think everybody understands what we as agents do on the buy sell and on the buy and the sell side. It's way more than just filling out documents and filling out contracts. It's way more than opening doors. To your point, we work for every single penny we make. We work for it. And
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, we are highly taxed for it. So the moment that you want to call your agent and tell them about reducing commissions, and I have a visceral reaction to people asking me to reduce my commission because they literally have no idea. Now, don't get me wrong, some transactions are going to be much easier than others, and it's going to be a lot simpler to do what I do. And then some are not going to be. There is a transaction that I just closed. I want to say either last year, it was either 2024 or 2023. Took me 2.5 years to close it.
What kind of did this? Were they building a house?
Quiet title action.
Oh, gotcha.
Took 2.5 years.
Was it land?
It was land.
Okay.
People talk about those tax sales and how you can, buy properties with the tax sales, but they don't ever tell you about that year after you have bought that property. They forget to tell people that, oh, you got to do this so
Mm-hmm.
you can legally own the property, change the deed and all of that and put it. They forget to tell people about that stuff. They just tell them about, oh, you can buy, houses for this. Yeah, but tell them about the other stuff that they're not doing that causes a 2.5 year transaction.
Well, thank you because I literally have a client that's about to sell some land and they bought it through tax. So we gonna talk after this.
So that, and then again, I talk about it all the time. Iron sharpens iron because you don't know what you don't know. So here,
Correct.
so however I help, I absolutely will. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what we do, how we do it, how we get paid. I think a lot of people have misconceptions that we make so much money. Yeah,
You
30
know.
that goes towards our taxes though.
Mm-hmm.
So what we
I
talking?
mean, and for some people they work for 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 months with a client before they even see a penny.
Oh yeah, what's your longest transaction before you closed?
Well, this client they were actually kind of like on and off,
Mm-hmm.
because the good thing with them out, they purchased and sold a couple of houses with me. So at the end of the day, I didn't mind waiting it out because they were loyal clients to me.
Mm-hmm.
But when they had sold their house, they sold it at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Then they couldn't find a house, so they stopped. Then a couple months later, they came back and said, "We're gonna go find land to go build a house." So then we're going around looking at land for probably like 4, 5, 6 months. And then they came back and said, "You know what? Well, my wife's pregnant now, so now we gotta go buy a house."
Mm.
Go back to buying a house, and I would say that probably was about a good year and a half ish of time working with them. And we weren't just looking 5 minutes this way, 5 minutes that way. We were
Y'all
from
was there.
I'm
I was
driving.
Peachtree City, Noonan, Rex.
I was driving far, and but at the same time, but again, even when you're driving far, love their kid loved me. It was like we were like best friends, you know what I'm saying? Like that, like, I promise you that I would literally go to their door and open the door and he'll be like, our eyes brighten up, giving it like that was my dog. So it was an enjoyable experience, even though I did have to drive a lot. It didn't feel like I actually was working. I felt like I was just hanging out with my friends. You know what I'm saying? Because we had to develop that relationship. But yeah, that was about a year and a half of driving around looking at the house until we found something.
Yeah, I think my longest one, surprisingly enough, it wasn't the 2.5 year quiet title. There was a buyer who wanted to live in a very specific zip code.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes zip codes can overlap, quote unquote cities.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to be in a very specific zip code, a very specific city in that zip code. And so we're not talking about like a huge area. It's a very small area.
Mm-hmm. Oh, was that it again?
Took us 3 years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I got some questions about that. How you manage that one?
How
Um,
to manage that? I
well, no,
mean,
no, no, well, no, 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 no.
uh,
Three years.
3 years.
That's a long time.
So to be fair though, that first year was a lot of discovery, right? A lot of research and discovery, trying to
Hmm.
figure out kind of where she wanted to live, figure out what price point she wanted to be in, figure out like just the general kind of ideas of where it is. She wasn't seriously looking that first year.
Hmm.
Well, not the entire first year, but maybe like towards the end of the year, we started kind of ramping it up and starting to look. Um, but then a lot of the houses that were coming on the market needed a ton of work. So,
Hmm.
having to deal with those, it's like, yeah, that's at the time anyway. She probably would take on a renovation project now, but at the time she was like, yeah, I don't want to do any work to the
Right.
house.
Hmm.
But yeah, literally on a random Sunday, she was driving down the street, saw an open house sign in that neighborhood, called me after she had already gone into the open house and was like, I found it. And I was like, okay, send me the address. She sent me the address. I scheduled a showing. We went back, wrote an offer. The rest is history. It literally that fast.
I mean, well, I've had some clients that have called me and said, "Hey, I found this house I want to buy. Can you submit an offer?" And I'd be like, well, "Have it been pre-approved?" Yeah, cool. Wrote that contract. Didn't even have to leave my house. Those some great clients, but you know,
There are others that are not that way at all. There have definitely been some times, but there's something that you said. You talked about cultivating relationships. You said that going out with those particular clients where you had to do a lot of driving felt like showing, hanging out with friends. I mean, I think that's really important, and I think it's important, an important element that's really missing in,
mm-hmm.
with today's agents. And I don't think that we're cultivating the same relationships like we used to,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's with our fellow agents or our clients. I think it's very transactional. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
But in this day and age, I feel like your database is your business, and you should certainly be making sure that you're staying in contact with them, calling them, staying up to date, because there are a lot more agents in this business than when you started in this business, and certainly when I started.
Oh yeah.
So, all of our clients, like they might have a cousin or a brother or a friend now who are agents. So now the business looks a little bit different. Now, instead of automatically going to Reshad, now it's, oh,
Look, story of my life for the last 2 years.
really?
Yeah, I mean it's when I because you remember when I first got into real estate, it was kind of like everybody was in real estate, but at the same time, some of the clientele that I had definitely had me kind of like up here. Everybody knew about Reshad, the realtor.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, everybody thought it was just, oh, it's so easy. I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm making a whole lot of money. And some people have came into the industry and they're doing well for themselves and shout out to them. And there's some that came in, realized it wasn't for them, and they have since gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's countless of people. I would say countless, but it's quite a few people that I can say that when I first got into it, we first began the process of talking about buying a house. Since then, a relative, significant others, cousin, sister, relative, or somebody now is in the industry. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of, dang, so like, so you said not gonna buy a house for me?
It's
You know,
changed.
I mean, but at the same time, like you said, but ultimately when you do, stay in contact with your database, and talk to them, you stay top of mind.
Yeah. I think there was a study once that said, like, as far as like brand recognition, you only hold on to maybe two or three different brands, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like start talking about like brands like toothpaste brands, you could probably name three of them.
Mm-hmm.
You were in the store in a pinch and you needed some toothpaste, and the first one you wanted wasn't available, and then the second one you wanted maybe was a little more expensive than you typically would pay for toothpaste. You might go to that third option.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's the same with real estate agents. It's like we have to stay top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
To stay either one or two position, one of the two, because that's where they're going. It's few and far between that people are picking up that third option. So, and you're absolutely not a third option agent. So there's that.
Well, sure not.
No. Mm. No, 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 no. And now to your point, we talked about the NAR settlement. Brokerage engagements are way more important than they've ever been. I mean, they dictate so many things in that transaction if you don't have one. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I might want to make
I
that.
got I got I got burned one time on one of those, and I and to make it so bad, the price of the house that they bought,
Tell we listening. Go ahead.
these folks went and bought a $2 million house.
Did you show them the house? And they oh
And
yeah.
this was really, it was a friend of a friend who I had known for years. Like, you know what, we got pre-approval. Let's go take a look. Okay, bet. Shoot it over to me, looked at it. Bet. Let's go take a look. There's okay. We looked at probably like 5 houses or something like that. But we're going out of town. We'll be back in like 2 weeks or whatever. Okay, cool. Came back. Reached out to them, but they weren't. I guess I think what they tell me, they weren't ready to make an offer on something just yet. They were still trying to figure out what they wanted or whatever. Then next thing you know, I get a text like maybe like a week or so later, like, "Hey, thank you for showing houses. We're in the contract now. We decided not to use an agent because we got a better deal." And that was the last time I showed a house without a buyer broker agreement. But a $2 million house.
That happens. And it's unfortunate that that actually happens. People will circle back, find that seller, and go direct to the seller. Doesn't mean, they don't care about the time that you spent. Because if you show them five, $1 million+ houses, that's about 30-ish minutes per house. So we're looking at what, 2.5, 3 hours, not including the commute time that you were with these people showing them. You can't get that time back. So at the very least, you should be compensated for your time. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, but like I said, but that was because I had been in the game for a while. I had never had any issues with it, but I've always heard them say, make sure you had a BBA sign because you don't want to get burned.
I had I learned that lesson the hard way. And then I also learned it through a agent colleague of mine who had a very large transaction from, we'll call it a celebrity. He still is fairly large celebrity here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Showed him a house that was going into foreclosure. It would have been it was an estate. It would have been a great property for him to buy, all the things. Literally same as you. Couple weeks went by, no contact anymore, no call, no nothing. He ended up using, I think it was a relative of his, to buy the property, and totally tried to shut her out, but she was able to combat all of that because she had her receipts.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have an agreement signed. However, she did have, it was on Supra. So she did have, it was recorded that there was, a Super lockbox out there. She
Mm-hmm.
also had like recorded with the listing agent that she was talking to them about this particular person. She also had receipts that she was talking to this person, and there was, verbal, I'll call it a verbal contract between them two, a representation. So she was able to get compensated, when all said and done. But I was like, baby, I don't gotta learn that lesson twice.
I wish I knew that lesson back then. I would have pressed it because I sure had the receipts of the Supra and all of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's just I learned this acronym, the CYA. Um,
mm-hmm.
cover your ass.
I mean,
Because
like I said, I've definitely learned that part. But that was because in the early days of I never had any issue with getting a BBA sign, or a client just bouncing on me at the last minute. So you
yeah,
know,
you're a man of integrity. So you think
right.
it has integrity. And unfortunately that's not the case. Some people will trade in their integrity to save a little money. And I guess I don't get it, but I guess to each his
His
own.
own. Right.
Well, you've been amazing. So tell me, before we get out of here, what's one thing you think buyers and sellers or even other agents should pay more attention to in the market coming up?
mm, One thing they should pay attention more to. I would say buyers definitely pay attention to what the interest rates are doing.
Hmm.
Right now, we see that have been going down, but at the same time, as they go down, that's going to bring out more and more competition for you. So,
Agreed.
a lot of people they wanted to, oh, I'm waiting for the housing market to crash. Cool. Well, we gonna wait on that one. I mean, it's gonna be some changes, but I don't see it happening the way that that they're expecting it to happen. So pay attention to the interest rates, but if you wait until they get too low, you're gonna have more competition. Yeah, we
Agreed.
got inventory out there, but at the same time, if everybody is interested in the house that's moving ready, that's the beautiful one on the block, you're probably gonna end up paying more for that house in terms of price or closing costs. So
Oh yeah.
If you're in position right now to buy, if you got the money, you have the credit to go ahead and buy something right now. If we see rates continue to go down, drop 1%, refi.
Yeah. I mean, you say it like it's so easy, but it really is.
Mm-hmm.
It really is just that easy. Just keep your debt to income ratio low, keep your credit keep it good, and
Mm-hmm.
within seven, what is it, 6 to 9 payments,
Yeah.
and refi.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the only thing you can't change the price of the house, but you can change the interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
So get in a good price now, right? Negotiate a great price for yourself, one that you can handle with the current interest rate, that mortgage. You can handle it. It's very comfortable. Maybe you're living below your means with that current mortgage payment. And if it
Mm-hmm.
drop, well, I'm gonna claim it. When it drops
It didn't drop.
1%, refi. Can you imagine the money that you're saving yourself over the long term? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about 15, 20, and 30-year mortgages. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but that takes me back to us being economists, like
Right.
having conversations. So I love it. I absolutely love it. So what's one thing that agents should be paying attention to in this market that you don't think people are paying attention to?
I mean, I would say just as an agent, actually just know your contracts. Just actually know what it is that what's inside of the contract and being able to really articulate and explain it to your clients.
Yeah.
Like coming into it as a new agent, you're representing your client in a huge financial transaction. So just make sure you understand what's going on and know if something is to come up where you can find an answer inside of that contract. Just
Love.
don't be a blind agent. And no question is a dumb question. There's a lot of agents out there that don't mind answering the question or help you buy it in a deal.
Hmm.
Just make sure that you're knowledgeable about what you're having your client sign.
Yeah, I think definitely not even I think, knowing your contract is vital to just the health of the transaction
Mm-hmm.
and the relationship between you and your client.
Yeah.
100.
Mm-hmm.
Rashad, thank you so much for hopping on and bringing a little testosterone to the lunch hour. I absolutely love it. I adore you. I think you're an amazing person. Thank you so much for hopping on today. If anyone wants to get in contact with you because they need an amazing agent, where can they reach you?
You can hit me up on Instagram at House Realty Group Inc. Or you can contact me on my cell phone 678-361-3019. Check out my website, thehouserealtygroup.inc.com, or email thehouserealtygroup@gmail.com.
Love it. Y'all have an amazing rest of the week and amazing rest of the day. And I'll see you next Wednesday at noon on IG Live. Talk to y'all soon.